Hey guys, so for today's video I'm doing like an aquarium in these silicone molds that are used for baking, and don't mind this part right here because it ends up breaking later on and I get rid of it anyway. But what I'm doing is right now I'm just starting to put a base down for the aquarium in one of the squares, and then after that I cut it so it's flush, and then I put some sand on it, which doesn't make any sense anyway, but that's alright. Like I said, I end up taking it out anyway. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making rocks and coral, and I'm going to be putting that all in to the mold. And then after I'm done doing that, I am going to be putting resin in. And when that happens, I'll let you know and I'll get to that. But for right now, yep, I put down some brown clay, which again doesn't matter, and now I'm putting down some sand and I'm pushing that down into the clay. And now what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start mixing black and white clay, this is polymer clay, bakeable polymer clay. I'm going to be mixing white and black together because I don't have any gray, and making rocks. And then what I do is I take some tin foil and I start to push in the tin foil so to give it that rock texture. I learned this from some people that I watch on YouTube, like Ace of Clay and Nerdy Crafter and people like them, showing how to get textures like that. And so now I'm just putting a bunch of rocks down. And you can see I'm having trouble because obviously it's not sticking to anything. It's just, getting a bunch of sand on it. It doesn't stick down to the clay underneath it because I covered the clay in sand, which doesn't make any sense. I don't know why I did that, but it's in the past. It's all right. So I made a bunch of rocks, and then I'm going to start making coral. And the way I did that was I just looked at a bunch of reference pictures, and right now I'm trying to make one of those, like the layered coral that kind of looks like fungus, like the mushrooms that grow on trees, but they're underwater like coral. And I decided to veto that until later. But now I'm going to be making little purple barnacles, and I don't think barnacles are actually purple, but anyone watch SpongeBob? I mean, come on. Barnacles are purple or gray. They're purple now. So I start with making a bunch of barnacles on one of my bigger rocks, and the rest of the coral names I have no idea what they're called, so I'm just gonna call them coral. And this is the little tubey coral, and they're usually found in bunches of, or it looked like they were usually found in bunches of 3 as I was looking. So I just put them in bunches of 3, put little holes in them with the little cone shaper tool or whatever it's called, and then I took it's like a double pronged, I don't even know what you want to call it. I guess it's actually for wood. It's a wood tool, but that's how I made like the brain looking coral ones, was just by twisting that tool all over the clay, and then I pushed it down onto the rock. And I mixed a lot of colors while doing this. And now I'm making the branchy looking coral that kind of looks like a tree underwater. And what I do with that is because it's off screen, sorry about that, but I cut a couple different pieces into it, and then I snaked them out a little bit more, and then I used what is it called? Tin foil, there we go. To add some texture and make it look branchy and cool. And then I kind of add to one of the rocks, but it ends up not really sticking to the rock, so then later on I'll add it just wherever I feel like it. And now I'm gonna add like the little They remind me of the mushrooms that grow on the trees and like the shelf-like stuff, but they're coral. So that's what I'm doing here with the orange. And then I do the same thing with a little yellow one and make it branchy like a tree. Which is, again, off camera. Just by like the slightest little bit. Texture it. And then I set it in with the other one. And do I keep it? Oh, I do keep it. I thought that one I moved because I didn't like it being next to the pink one. But now I'm making another like brainy like coral with the same tool as the yellow and the other pink one. And I'm going to stick that one down on the double rock. Oh, I should have put some leaves or like kelp or something in there. Crap. Put some green in there. That would have been nice. Oh well. But making more barnacles. Can't go wrong with more and more barnacles. So during this, I mixed a lot of clay colors, and I just do it with my hands. Making another tubey coral, and you saw that I made another yellow brainy coral. If that's what it's called, I don't know. I really liked making the tubey ones. They were kind of cool. They were just kind of chill. The brain coral ones were pretty easy to do too because it was a tool. It's not like I had to like pinch it out or anything. I took it out, but I originally started with trying to pinch yellow ones to make it look like that, and I was like, this isn't working. And then I looked through my tool bag, and that's what I found. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And it worked. It worked really well. More barnacles. And another one of the branchy corals, but I only do 3 little sprigs off of it, and I put it in between the pink and the barnacles, and it ends up breaking off later on, and I think I just still try to put it in the same place, but it doesn't work. So after this is all done, I start making a starfish, which at first I was making it very stupidly, and I was like, that's not working. So I rolled out a very fat snake of clay, and then I cut it at the bottom and made, sorry about that, and made 2 little, what are they? Like little arms afterwards. And after that, I smooth it all down. And I take a paintbrush with the tougher bristles, and I texture it with that. And then after I do that, I turn it over and I put some tan on the other side. And I detail that with the cone shaper tool again. The cone shaper tool was my favorite tool. It's the easiest one. It's what made the holes in all the barnacles and the tubey stuff. And it's like my blending tool. And I also texture this other side with the paintbrush. And now we gotta make some fishies. Which I think I made them koi fish. And I don't know if koi fish, like, are in the ocean. I know I probably sound stupid, but I really don't know. I don't know fish culture. But I make 2 little fish. And I just made the second fish the way I made this fish, so I don't think I show it. And then I baked them. Oh, not baked them yet. I realized that the starfish was really big compared to the fish, which I know starfish can get really big, but I decided to cut it down anyway. And now it's time to bake them. They're fully baked and out of the oven, cool, and now I'm going to start painting them. So this is when I paint them like koi fish. I just put little orange spots all over them. And I ended up breaking one of the fins off of one of them, which you don't really see, but I'm just gluing it back together, and then when it goes into the resin, it's not like it can move anyway, so it's alright. This is the fishies or fin that I break. And I do the bottoms just in case you can see them, because I don't know if you can or not. And then I'm taking all of our little coral pieces that we made, and I'm going to be using chalk pastels to shade them so they give them a little bit more life. And I'll also be using white paint. Oh, here's where I try to put the yellow coral in, and then I just decide I'll wait until the end. But I'm using black chalk pastel right now to just shade the rocks. And then later I'll use white paint to highlight a lot of the areas. And then I just use the darker colors of the corals that I'm working with to shade with pastels. And I decided to put some white paint on the rocks as well. Here's where I start detailing all of the coral, and I'll let myself do that, and I'll be right back. I'm sorry that some of them are off screen. I don't realize it because I actually have it zoomed in, so like what my normal, area that the camera can pick up, I'm used to it being a lot larger than what it is right now, so I was out of frame for a little bit of this. But you get the gist. It's just using the darker chalk pastels on the different colors that I had, and then after I'll be going over in white to give them highlights. And I use like a, it's almost kind of damaged, but it's like a thicker, I don't even know what to call it. It's like a weird bristle brush, and it's like a thicker brush, and it's kind of damaged, but it works for just doing a slight bit of detail. Oh, and I'm also shading the starfish. And then I put a little bit of white on them. And I do the same thing with the broken off piece of coral. And I decided to put a little bit of black in some of the holes of the tubes and the barnacles. And I put little eyes on the fish. I don't know if I show that or not. Oh, I do. And now it's time for the resin. So what I'll be doing is taking a two-part epoxy resin. A two-part epoxy resin. It's part hardener, and then the other part is the actual epoxy. And you mix equal parts together, and you stir it up. Don't combine them in their containers, or you'll ruin it. And this stuff is pretty expensive. I do mark where they are on the bottle, and then line them up together and see where they are on the bottle afterwards. And I realize I need a little bit more hardener, and then I mix it like crazy, and then I put some sand in there because it's going to be the very bottom, and I mix the sand up in the resin, and I put some more in, and then more back on the bottom. I make no sense. And then I pour all of the resin in, and then I'm going to mix it up in the container, and then I realized that I made way too much. So for poops and giggles, we'll say that. I scooped some out and I ended up putting it in a different, in one of the other squares, just for an extra thing, just in case I want to make another aquarium at some point. And now I'm going to start placing in the coral pieces that were made, and I'm just going to place them how I think that they should be. I was going to put the fish in now, but then I decided that was a bad idea because I don't want them sinking to the bottom. I did end up just putting the coral pieces in like I did before. And then I clean off around it, and I decided to make a, I think I decided to make a clear batch. I did. And put it over in the other square, but that didn't work out, so I'm just gonna delete that. Now that everything is done, I am going to pull everything out. All of the pieces, put that to the side for a second. Clean it out, and then I'm going to place it back in and put the fish where I want them, put the starfish where I want them, and then I'm going to coat it in clear resin and hope that this works. The only bad thing that happens at the end of all of this is the fact that because I didn't have one of the longer torch lighters, I could not get all the bubbles out, so it looks very, very bubbly and cloudy, and it could have definitely looked better, which makes me sad because I put a lot of time and effort into this, but you know, things happen. But yeah, oh, don't mind my hair going in and out, goodness gracious. But I just put everything in, do the clear resin, and then I attempt to use that topper, which I'm not going to show because that was a disaster because it did not work. And then I'm going to let that set, and then that's pretty much it. After I take it out, after it's done setting, all I do is coat it, with some Liquitex varnish to try to get the cloudiness out of the way, but that didn't exactly work either, but you know, but you'll see the final product, and I really hope you liked it. I really enjoyed making this aquarium. I want to try it again, maybe getting either UV resin, better resin, or something, because I really hate the bubbles that happened. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little late. I might have to change my schedule to Mondays and not Fridays because my honey has his days off Wednesdays, Thursdays. So I don't do anything those days because he usually works very late. So we don't have a lot of time together. You know, he works at 1, gets out at 10, and he doesn't get home until 10:30, and then he ends up having to be in bed by, 1-ish. So we don't get a lot of time together. So on his days off, I like to, hang out with him. So I might start doing it on Mondays. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. Why don't you, subscribe if you're lurking. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff that you're supposed to do when you're on YouTube, I suppose. But anyway, I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!